Hey everyone, hope you're doing well, and I've just been so grateful this month for the time that we've been able to get together looking at Jesus together from the Bible, looking at these encounters that people in the Bible had with Jesus. And some pretty amazing stories that we've already been able to look at, and I'm happy this week to kick off week 2 of studying these encounters together. One of my favorite stories, when I look at the Bible, I just go, man, I love this story about Jesus, and I want to break it down a little bit today. It's about Jesus clearing the temple courts. All right, let's jump in. This is a spicy verse. All right, John 2, starting in 13. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem, and in the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip of cords and drove all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." Think about this scene. I want you to actually, in your mind, think about what this would have been like. Picture the temple, which was a place that was reserved for worshiping God and learning more about him and growing in him. Jesus shows up, and he sees this happening, and we get his reaction here. The verse tells us here that he made a whip of cords. So Jesus took the time to look around, find some raw materials, and make a whip. So before we go thinking that this was just some act of rage or anger, that Jesus was out of control, Jesus intentionally took the time to make a whip. Right? When you're angry, you react to something immediately, right? Some of the worst decisions I've made were instant reactions of anger or not thinking. So Jesus here is showing us that this is intentional. He's not acting out of anger. He's acting out of intention. And he made a whip of cords. And then he drove them all out of the temple courts. And what he did was he poured out the coins of the money changers. Think about this. Just picture the sound here, right? What would this have sounded like? Jesus is using a whip to drive away animals who are making all sorts of noises as they leave. He's pouring out the coins of the money changers. He himself is taking the coins and pouring them out. They're hitting the ground. Pow, pow, pow. All these coins hitting the ground. And then he's turning over tables, right? He's going up to tables and turning them over, right? That's making a crash, a bang. Imagine this. It's like someone yelling fire in a crowd. This would be a very chaotic situation. But then look what he does. He takes some caution with one group of people, those who were selling the birds. It says, to those selling doves, he said, "Get those out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." He knew, Jesus was not violent here. He knew that if he had thrown those cages off tables, it could have hurt those birds. It could have killed those birds. So he knew to be a little bit more tender with them. And so he spoke more decisive words, telling them to get them out of here. This is not a market. And so here's some things that we can look at when we're taking away this encounter with Jesus. I love that. We're seeing Jesus' heart here. This is not rage or just anger. We're seeing his heart. Jesus is not violent, but he isn't afraid to make a mess. He is not violent, but he is fierce. And we can be this way. Look, Jesus was protecting something. He was protecting the temple, a place where people would come to know God. And so we see his fierce dedication to this. And we see the commanding and the bold way he approaches this. He takes a stand. And he speaks the truth in love. Remember in John 1, the Bible says Jesus is full of grace and truth. And so right now he is speaking the truth in love. And his heart right here is for protection. All right, his heart is not just to make people mad. His heart is for protection. He is standing up for something that he loves. And I love that Jesus isn't afraid to correct. I love that Jesus isn't afraid to correct me today. Right? There are so many times when Jesus whispers to me an attitude of my heart that's just not right. And I love that Jesus isn't afraid to correct me and to get me back on the right path. Here we see that Jesus knows when to be tough and when to be tender. And we all need to be both tough and tender in our life. And so what can we learn from Jesus here? Well, you might just think, is there something in my life that needs protecting? A family or a marriage or a calling or a dream? Is there something in your life that needs protecting that you need to stand up for, that you need to say yes to? And you need to be fierce about that. You need to be passionate about that. You need to go after that. Is there a person in your life that needs to be protective? Do you need to be tough or tender? And so you might think about that today. Sometimes I've been too tender when I need to be tough, and sometimes I've been too tough when I need to be tender. And so we can pray for wisdom on that. Jesus, help me to understand what's needed in this situation. What might need to be protected in your marriage or your family? Think about that today and know that it's okay to speak the truth in love. We see Jesus doing it here, and so we can model our life after that. It's all done in love. It's all done out of a passionate heart. So I hope that's encouraging for you today, and I'm looking forward to jumping into another encounter with Jesus tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.